In this video, we're going to take a look first at the switches. And by the way, the good folks at the quality control advised me to rename the folder from switch to switches, because if you have a folder with the name switch, they said that it might bring some errors during final compilation, so this might be important to know. We have two switches, which basically is the same thing. The only difference is how they get activated. This switch has to be activated by line trace, and this switch you can simply touch or shoot at it. So let's see first the logic in our main blueprint for opening. So we have input action open, line trace by channel, a short line trace, and when we hit something we break hit results, and if the actor that we hit is the door or the double door or the switch, then we go to the event inside of the blueprint called open for each of the blueprints, with the difference is that if we are opening the door or the double door, we check if the door is set to switched in this case. So if it is set to switch, and if its open close state is set to 0, which means if it's not opened, right? In this case we get the message this door opens elsewhere, and then we clear general messages. So we check if it's not set to switched. I mean if it is set to switched, and if it's not set to switched, then we can go on and open. We also need to check if it's triggered. So if it's not used by a switch, if it's not opened by a trigger, then we can open it, because if it's opened by a trigger, then we shouldn't open it, then nothing should happen. For example, if it's a secret door, then it should look simply like a wall, and we will look at the blueprint of the walls and see it there, but it simply got the variables of switched and triggered. Same for the double door. So to recap, if it is switched, if the door is opened by a switch, we also need to check if it's already open. So if it's already open, nothing happens. If it is closed and we are trying to open it and it opens with a switch, we get door opens elsewhere. Now if it's set to a trigger, then nothing should happen because it's a secret door. So same thing for the double door, and nothing like that for the switch. We simply cast it to the switch and we open it. So let's go back to the switch. First of all, start opened, event begin play, switch on integer. If on off state is set to 1, then we open it from the start. This is also important during save games. If the switch was opened, then it should go to open state. The functionality for level clear. So we play animation, switch on, we set the material for the green emissive. To get the green emissive channel, simply two sets of materials. One has the emissive for the green light, and the other one for the red light. So we set the material for the green light, the one that has the green light with the emissive channel. We play sound at location, and after a slight delay we create the widget for level clear, and the owning player will be our player controller. We add it to viewport, set input mode UI only so that we don't have the possibility to shoot or do anything else, and we set next level name. This variable is just a name, so we set this variable. We set game paused, and we show the mouse cursor. So this variable here, like if I bring the switch here, you can see that here we can enter, simply type the name of our next level. And this variable will be used by this widget that we add to the viewport, and we will look at those widgets later on. Okay, continuing. Open and close logic. So if finish level equals to 1, then we go to level clear event, which is here. If it's not, if it's 0, we are using it as a regular switch. And first off, we are checking the on-off state. So if on-off state is 0, this means that the switch is off. We go to open logic. And if it is false, then we go to close logic, because every time here that we make our line trace and we get the result of the switch, we simply try to open it every time. However, if it was closed, if it was opened already, then we should close it. So if it was opened, it will go to close logic here. So we first check in this on-off state. Here we check if it's locked to a key. So we have variables for iron, silver, and golden key, and we check if iron is set to 1, silver is set to 1, and golden is set to 1. So if one of those is set to 1, and obviously iron will override, silver will override those that are beneath. We cast to first person character, and we check if in our first person character these variables, iron key, silver key, golden key, are set to 1. This is done by the pickups, of course. If we go to, let's say, the golden key, this is the same as for all of the pickups. Here we cast to first person character and set golden key to 1 inside of our main blueprint. So if we got the key and it is set to 1, then in our switch this condition will be satisfied. So if it's locked to a golden key, for example, we need the variable in our main blueprint for the golden key to be 1 to continue with the logic. If it's not, we go to these messages. So we cast a first person character and we set the general message to you need the iron key, silver, and golden key respectively, and then we clear general messages inside our main blueprint. So from there we play the animation, switch on, set material for the green to get the green light, we play the sound, and then there's a sequence of events. First of all, we set the on-off state to 1, which means we switched our switch right to on position or opened position. Then there is a branch that checks close. Here we have this close question, which means whether we want to close or to switch off the switch after a certain delay. And the delay by default is set to, here it is, it's also an open parameter, set to negative value. Doesn't matter which one. So in case this is set to a positive value, this will use standard delay. If it's a negative value, then it will use the timeline. I think I've already mentioned timelines, or maybe not. Well, whatever. We will see it now. If you click on it, you have the timeline here, and its length 3 seconds. You cannot adjust this as an open parameter, unfortunately. So this value will be the same for all of the switches in the level based on the blueprint, because this delay can be adjusted for each door in the scene, but this not. And so by default it uses the 3 seconds with the timeline logic. This is very important thing to understand when we need to use the timelines. And by the way, I think for the switch this is not applicable in any case. It is applicable though for the doors when it is triggered. So however, it is there if you need it. The reason for this, if you open the switch and your close is on, so after a delay it will attempt to close it, and during this delay, if you close and open the door again, this will not reset the delay. So this timeline is used to have the delay reset. So think of it as a resettable delay, because you can see it goes not to play, but play from start. So every time we open our switch, this delay will start playing from the beginning. Otherwise, you will have uncontrollable closing of the switch. Now, maybe I can demonstrate this. Let's see. We will set this to 1 second. I will turn it on, then off and on again. So first of all, yes, we turn it on, and in a second. Okay. Yes, we need to set this to close, and the delay is 1 second. Turn it on, and in a second it closes off. It closes off. Well, let's have a bigger delay. Let's like 3 seconds so that we can see the difference. Turn it on, and in 3 seconds it's off. Now what I do is turn it on, off, and okay, it cannot be turned off. We have another variable. It's in the close logic. Can be switched off. Now it can be switched off. So we turn it on, turn it off again, and it gets closed faster than 3 seconds. So let's see that again. In the last case, you can clearly see that the pause was not 3 seconds. Yes, as you can see, this is what happening. Because this delay schedules the closing event regardless of whether we opened the switch again or not. So we need to use the timeline for this. So in case we set our close delay to a negative value. Okay, close the main character and the other switch. So in case we set it to negative value, this branch will bring us to the timeline. And this way, whatever I do, it will close only in 3 seconds, because the timeline gets reset here. This concept is very important to understand, otherwise you'll have many glitches in the game if you don't use timeline where it is appropriate. You will have scheduled events that should not happen. So this delay can be used, for example, if we if the switch cannot be turned off, right? So we don't have the control, so we can only turn it on, then we can set any delay. The problem will not happen because we won't be able to interfere. So this is why we have this option, and you can set this delay to whatever you want, and it will work just fine. In case for the doors, this will also be applicable when it's triggered. Because when the door is triggered, we don't have any control to open it, so it will close after the delay only once, and that logic will not happen twice. So next is our close logic. It's quite simple. We check the on-off state. Then we play the animation switch off. We set the material to red. We play the sound. We set the on-off state to 0, and the sequence of events. Oh, also here and here, I've missed this part. It's basically the same, only here we're opening things and here we're closing things. So first, we check if this variable is valid. Same for all of the variables. These variables, door, door 1, double door, another double door, and object movers, that we will take a look at all of this later. Here, we can specify the object that are being operated by the switch. So if we bring, for example, in our door blueprint, we select the switch, click here, select the door, and now it will operate the door. We cannot turn it off, right? So it closes automatically. If we bring the double door, same will happen. We have to simply specify it here. Same for the object movers. So yes, and of course it can operate 2 doors at the same time. And in our next video, we will take a look at the doors. Oh, no, wait a second. Let's see the other switch real quick. It's basically the same thing. Level switches. We can also assign the doors, and if we simply touch it, it'll be activated, or if we shoot at it. Now, how this is done? Interaction here. Event actor begin overlap. So this is when we touch it. Cast a first person character. If this is valid, we go to open. So if the overlapping actor it can be done this way, by the way. Actually, this is the way it should be. Yes, so this is the way it will be by default. Okay, so if the overlapping actor is our first person character, so that monsters don't open the switch. Or you can, leave that, and on actor begin overlap, you can simply get it open, whatever you prefer. And here on event any damage, it will open. So our blueprint is set to can be damaged, so it can receive damage. So if it receives any damage, it opens. The rest is identical. Okay, so in the next video, the doors.